Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Sorry, nerds. Most is like here, laying on the ground after I fell, after I gave up on my attempted suicide. Yeah, it's that time of year again. It's Christmas. And it's also time, I've been told, for the irreverent nerds to talk about The Simpsons. Finally, The Simpsons. So, you should listen. It was enough to make me want to get off the ledge, even though I did fall anyway. At least I didn't die. I broke my leg. I suppose that's fortuitous, but anyway. Check out the Irreverent Nerds talking about The Simpsons. Merry Christmas.
I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Today's episode of the Irreverent Nerd Podcast has been brought to you by Duff Beer. Don't just sit on your Duff. Get in the bar and drink some beer. That means you too, Homer.
Nerds. We're back after a 1 week, or I guess 2 week, 1 week, 2 week hiatus. Anyway,
2 weeks?
I mean, it's been 2 weeks since we last
Right.
recorded an episode. Took a week off last week, which I absolutely needed. And you might hear a little bit of a sound echo. We are on hardwood floors as we are in the upstairs in my office / my wife's art studio at the new house. And I tell you, man, like at the end of last week, I was so tired. My feet hurt. My feet still hurt from last week. Moving so much stuff. It's not even funny. I was like, how did we fit all that in our 2-bedroom apartment? I was like, how in the world do we fit all this stuff? Like, it's going to take us a bit to unpack. But we got it all out, got the previous place cleaned, and now we're in at the new place. But anyway, we took the week off, re-released an old episode.
Yeah.
Usagi and Jimbo that we recorded. It was actually episode number 50.
Cool.
And we're creeping up on episode 100. I believe, I got to go back and do the math again. I think I've miscounted a couple times, but I believe when we do The Boy and the Herring, that'll be right around episode 99 or 98, kind of in that zone. So we got to figure that out. Anyway, as promised, we are here this week to talk about The Simpsons.
That's right. And not Pom Poko, which is something I wanted us to review, but Richard definitely needed the week off.
Yeah, I guess I could have let you do a solo episode. I didn't think about that.
Well, I didn't think about that either, but it would have been a lot more fun to see your expressions. And,
Oh, yeah. Giant
your thoughts.
raccoon balls.
Yes. Your shape-shifting anatomy. But maybe another time.
Miyazaki, master of the beautiful grotesque.
But yes, we're here to talk about The Simpsons. Blah, 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 I stuttered. The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. Yes, indeed. We have referenced this many times over the course of this episode. I guess this would be episode 96 or 97 that we're on right now. Over the course of our 90-plus episodes, we have referenced The Simpsons on a number of occasions. I've even done some Simpsons impressions over time, like Moe and Burns and Smithers. Homer is one I've never been able to do adequately, at least not to my own satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like Dan Castellaneta just has a very unique sound, and I can't quite match it. But yeah, Burns and Smithers and Moe and the comic book guy are easier to do.
And when you're not being recorded, Apu.
Oh, yes, I have done Apu. Is it Apu or Abu? Apu. Abu is from Aladdin.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
probably
know.
also offensive for different reasons.
Yes, this is why we haven't recorded you doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can actually do a very good Apu impression. And but no, he was I guess a few years ago, was taken off of The Simpsons. I don't think they ever fully agreed with the reasons, but they kind of bowed to public pressure. Claims that it was misrepresenting people of Indian descent, and I don't know. There could be some truth to that, I guess. Because I don't know that they definitely didn't have a main character or even a recurring side character who was say, a person of Indian descent who did something different. There is a bit of a stereotype of people from that part of the world immigrating over here and starting or running convenience stores. There's a reason why it's a stereotype. I have actually met quite a few people, not from India so much, but from just that general area of the world, from the Middle East and just countries around there, Pakistan, Lebanon, kind of that region. I have met a number of people over the years that did immigrate here and do run convenience stores. So there's truth behind it.
Me too.
It's not that it's, I have run into that. I have met people like that. And some of them, I know of one family that they're from Lebanon, and I believe it's Lebanon, and they run a chain of convenience stores. So they're businessmen and they do quite well for themselves. I don't think there's any shame in running convenience stores. Why would we shame the people that own the Sheetz chain of stores? I mean, I'm assuming they're white men, but honestly, I don't know. Maybe not. They might not be. But anyway, I think that was what what people were upset about with Apu, and he was eventually taken off. Although I think the Simpsons creators didn't. I don't think they, from what I've heard, they didn't ever really agree with that. It was kind of more just they were maybe pushed into it by their legal team or just by public pressure. But suffice to say, that is why, just in case it might be offensive, that is why we have not done an impression of Apu.
If I'm pretty sure we've talked about it, but if we haven't talked about it, since this is our first Simpsons topic episode, I never looked down on Indian people because of Apu, and I really love the character. He wasn't stupid; he was quite intelligent. He was one of the most intelligent characters on the show.
More successful than Homer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Homer's like the white stand-in. I mean, yellow person, but, white stand-in. But Apu was a successful businessman who supported his family by owning his own business, right?
Yeah, all 12 or 18 of his kids.
12 kids, yeah.
However many, I don't remember.
I've never heard of that being linked to a stereotype. So I think that was just a quirk of let's give him 12 kids. I don't think that had anything to do with the stereotype because that would be perhaps a stereotype for, say, fundamentalist Mormons or homeschoolers or having a lot of kids.
Well, this is The Simpsons.
Oh, man. And they make fun of everything. It's
exactly.
Equal opportunity satire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your political party is. Doesn't there might be some groups that because of the bias, because you can't help but have bias, like the bias of the creators might make fun of some groups more than others, perhaps. But no, it's similar to Family Guy as well. Just equal opportunity, or South Park also. Oh yes, from what I've heard,
South Park.
Anyone's fair game. You know what I mean?
Do you think you would like South Park if you watched it?
I don't know. The little bit I've seen of it, it didn't really grab me.
Oh, okay.
But then I haven't gotten into it, so I can't say for sure.
I used to watch South Park in the 90s. I prefer Simpsons, but South Park did a lot of satire and political stuff and whatnot.
Well, I think, and this is something we can talk
about. Political satire.
Like what we like about The Simpsons, what is so attractive about it for the both of us. I definitely want to talk about that. But before we do that, let's get into, as we have with many of our other properties, what were our first experiences with The Simpsons? What first drew us to this IP, as they say, or CP, creative property, We'll call it a KIP, creative intellectual property. I just made that up. I coined a new term. No, someone else is probably. Anyway, so Will, Do you remember how old you were when you first saw The Simpsons?
I was probably 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
Or 5. I feel like I've been watching The Simpsons since the first episode, nice. Which is not to say I've continued watching it throughout the years. There are a lot of seasons, and I have not faithfully watched every single one of them.
Well, yeah, because was it 89 the year it started?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you would have been 4.
I feel like I started from episode 1. I really feel like I did.
So that means your parents were watching it.
Yeah. It was family time.
Nice.
And of course, you and I have talked about it, but maybe we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet. It was our weekly family time. We would gather around the TV. I can't remember if we ate dinner in front of the TV or not, but we would catch the new episode of The Simpsons, and we did this for years. We were still watching The Simpsons several seasons in when it was Who Shot Mr. Burns? And we were supposed to all call in and give our guesses of who shot Mr. Burns and things like that. And I think it was a call in, or if it wasn't call in, maybe it was write in. I'm not sure. But it was this big to do. And I'm not sure exactly when I finally started falling away from watching The Simpsons regularly, but I'm going to say it was probably the late 90s, like 99 or something. So there was a good decade where my family gathered around and watched every single new episode.
Nice. That's really cool. The only show I can think of that's comparable for my family growing up was America's Funniest Home Videos.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We would watch that every Sunday night on ABC after we got home from church. That was like our my dad in particular, because my dad was a pastor for many of those years. Yeah, he's getting home from work, very emotionally taxing work as well. So that was his decompression. But then we would watch it as a family together. That's the only show I can think of that we all watched together regularly over the years. We certainly had other series that we would watch, like Little House on the Prairie was one my mom really loved, and The Waltons. So we would watch that with her. I don't think my dad cared much for it, so I don't remember him watching it with us.
Yeah, that's why I joked. Okay.
But I do have memories of watching Star Trek: The Next Generation with my dad, and various sci-fi properties over the years. That was something I enjoyed doing with my dad that my mom didn't care for. She didn't join us on that. But yeah, I think Funny Some Videos was the only thing. But that's cool that you guys had a show, maybe more than one, but definitely The Simpsons that you watched together for many years.
Yeah, and I became a Christian sometime in 1999, actually. And I think at the time, with my newfound faith, I wasn't sure if I should continue watching The Simpsons. So I credit that for the reason I stopped faithfully watching it. But I eventually came back because The Simpsons is rather benign. I mean, it's not South Park.
Yeah, like it does certainly satirize religion, but it also portrays it positively at times as well. Yeah. Like even like Flanders, the Flanders character can kind of be on both sides of it, where he can be a portrayal of some of the ridiculous parts of, like when people go too far with religion, but at the same time he's also probably one of the kindest characters on the show, and can be very generous and merciful towards Homer in particular. So it kind of shows both, like I think
sexy Flanders
with his 8 abs.
Yeah, I was watching an episode. Spoiler alert for our own podcast. We watched the Christmas episodes, but we'll get into that later. But I was watching one of those Christmas episodes, and Homer and Ned were on some ice and skidded into a silo, and Homer was like, "Do you have airbags in this thing?" And Ned was like, "No, the church is against it for some reason."
Oh yeah, I think Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I watched that episode as well. Will got through a few more than I did. We basically, like, if you go on Disney Plus, which they have the first 34 seasons are all on Disney Plus currently, and only the new season is on Hulu at the moment. But yeah, we went to the Christmas list. Basically, they made a list of the Christmas episodes. I think there might have been one missing from according to IMDb here, but was it something like 17 different episodes or something like that they've done on Christmas over the years?
Yeah, I think I counted something like that, but don't hold me to it.
Yeah, like I made it through the first 5 episodes on the list. Will got up to number 9 on the list. But yeah, we both saw that one though, the one with Flanders, and then that's right before they get frozen? Like the car literally gets frozen in place.
No, that's after it gets frozen in place.
Oh, after
they finally break out and they're heading towards the school and they hit the salt silo. But yeah. I mean, Matt Groening, if I understand correctly, he actually had a Christian upbringing. Mm-hmm. I think he left Christianity when he, or perhaps, I don't know his exact religious beliefs, but I don't believe he's a Christian now, is my point. And but he must. I think that his upbringing translates into the show, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I think it affects his viewpoint. His viewpoint of Christianity affects the show. Yeah,
he definitely. And obviously, he's not the only person involved in writing Simpsons episodes. And so maybe there's multiple perspectives coming in at different points, but just the overall bent of the show, I would think it's fair to say it's skeptical of religion. I think that bias is in there. I don't know if bias or perspective maybe is a better way of putting it. I do think that's in general where it seems to lean is towards being skeptical of religion, and obviously Christianity being the most popular and probably the one that most of the creators grew up with as well, or were perhaps already in. But I think did they ever say what denomination the church in the town is? Is it Episcopalian? It kind of feels like an Episcopalian.
No, it's not Episcopalian. One of the Christmas episodes, Homer looks out the window and says that he wished he were Episcopalian. He looks at the Episcopalian church across the street. I thought they were Methodist, but in one Christmas episode, She of Little Faith, Bart tells Lisa maybe she should become a Methodist after she leaves church.
And she's like, no. Yeah, so maybe it's Presbyterian. Might be Presbyterian.
Yeah, it might be. But I have a feeling it's just some made-up denomination because it's the Simpsons.
Yeah, it kind of has the flavor of like a more maybe socially liberal Protestant church. It kind of has that flavor, like a Methodist or and not all Methodist churches and liberal is a matter of perspective, as they would say. But anyway, I feel like it kind of has that flavor as a church, like where going might be as much of a cultural expectation.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's definitely the case for the Simpsons family.
Maybe not as much of an emphasis, although in the She of Little Faith episode, like they do get into like Marge, definitely like. Well, you see that she definitely, obviously, which totally makes sense. I mean, wants her family to go to heaven.
Yeah.
I think she says at one point, it's like, Lisa. I'm not doing a good Marge impression. It's like Lisa was like the one person in the family she thought had the best chance of making it to heaven.
Yeah.
And then Lisa deconverts and becomes a Buddhist, so to speak. At least she leaves the church and becomes a Buddhist. She
ends the episode being a Christian Buddhist, like that famous beatnik, Jack Kerouac. That seems to fit her, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that is one of the things about elements of Buddhism. They don't have a deity per se. Well, at least not a creator deity. One could argue the eternal Buddha is a type of deity.
One could argue.
Yeah, one could argue. At least has some of the properties that other religions, deities possess. But they don't have a creator god that they worship, unlike Christianity. So, like you could be a Buddhist and then potentially not fully participate, obviously, in other traditions, but maybe there's more of a respect and maybe less of a concern with proselytization, perhaps.
Oh, that makes sense.
Although it may depend on what part of the world you're in, too. So I'm pretty sure I've heard there's fundamentalist Buddhists just like there are fundamentalist Christians. I've heard more about fundamentalist Hindus, and they're, but it would not surprise me if there were also some Buddhists who were like that.
But there aren't any militant Buddhists, are there? Are those the Kung Fu Buddhists? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't fit Buddhism. I don't think that exists.
It tends to be more pacifist as a religion, or maybe have more of a philosophy of nonviolence in general, as I understand it. But that doesn't mean that individual groups or of people who identify as that, or perhaps were raised Buddhist, or become radicalized, might not become violent at certain times. And I think that's more of a human trait that you see pop up no matter what belief system we're talking about. If there's a radicalization,
I think so.
Then you can see violence pop up around it. You I think that's just a human thing. What I mean?
But I was just joking. Militant Buddhism, that's an oxymoron.
Yes, officially, I would say.
But I don't think The Simpsons, although skeptical, I don't think it paints Christianity in a completely biased light against it. There are a lot of episodes that I remember this one episode. It was one of my favorites growing up. I can't remember the name of the episode right now, but the side plot of the episode, which is what I remembered as a child, that's what I latched onto, was that Homer Simpson found out that he was looked just like this Mr. Clean stereotype from Japan.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I watched this episode as an adult sometime in the last couple of years with my wife, and surprisingly, the main plot was Flanders helping the Reverend to remember that what Christianity is all about love and not about, as he joked about it, I can't remember the exact quote, but hating people or something, because he had really gotten to where he hated his job as a reverend. But that was surprising. So like you said earlier, there were a lot of different
many different
writers
and creators who have a voice, and I'm sure they probably have a writer's room where there's a lot of input. At least that's how most TV shows are run. Like you may have a particular writer who's running point on a given story for that episode, and their name might be in the credits for it, but often there's input from other writers, and they have a discussion and a writer's room and feedback and and things like that. It would not surprise me if The Simpsons was run similarly. But yeah, typically, as I understand TV show production, there would be one or two writers that would run point on a given episode. So yeah, you're going to have different voices, and there may be other people who have a different perspective who want to infuse that into the show somewhat. It's hard to say. But even so, I mean, the show's been around 34 years now. So, right? Yeah, 34 years.
Yeah.
So, Groening himself has probably changed over the years. I can't say how. I don't know his personal beliefs.
No, I certainly don't.
But just as a human, I mean, most people, change over time.
So that's what I love about The Simpsons. And their episodes on Christianity don't offend me like South Park, but but I really appreciate the humor, actually, and because I understand it, I get it. As a Christian person, I can laugh. I can laugh at myself. I can laugh at how ridiculous my faith sometimes is, and I really appreciate that about The Simpsons. they're not out to bash Christianity, but they're out to say, hey, this is kind of ridiculous. This is kind of funny, and I appreciate that aspect.
Yeah, I think one particular joke comes to mind.
I know where you're going.
I think it's an episode where Homer ends up like preaching a sermon or something, or he's speaking from the pulpit, and he ends up he's doing. I don't remember the full context, but is like he basically says like it's like oh no, we'll eat the body of God. That's not weird. Because if you stop and think about it for a minute, it's like, wait a minute, was it consubstantiation? Where I know in transubstantiation, Roman Catholic tradition believes it, like literally is becoming the body of Christ, and then you're feasting on the literal. It's like not metaphorical. I mean, it's not cannibalism, but it kind of is. It's like if you step back from it for a minute, you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. You must eat the flesh of my flesh and drink the blood of my blood. And many disciples said, "You're crazy," and walked away.
Yeah, well, that's in the Gospels, right? Yeah. It's like many. What does it say? Many walked away because this was a hard saying, or something like that. I think is the quote. But yeah, no, I do like that, and that is one of the things about comedy. And by the way, this is not necessarily where we plan on going with, like, we're going to talk about how The Simpsons treats religion, but since we decided to do Christmas episodes, inevitably, I mean, Christmas is a primarily, not solely religious tradition, but not even a solely Christmas or Christian tradition, but it's certainly heavily Christian in the way it's practiced in the modern age. Like, it is, historically speaking, it is kind of a hybridization of the winter solstice celebration.
Yeah.
And then the Roman Catholics decided to celebrate the birth of Jesus. I think traditionally, it used to be celebrated I want to say in April, maybe before they started merging it with the winter solstice. I forget the reasons.
I didn't know that.
I may be wrong about this. I think I got this from Rick Steves' Europe on PBS. I want to say, but I maybe don't quote me on this. I'm not a religion expert.
As long as you didn't get it from Da Vinci Code.
Oh yeah, from the Da Vinci Code.
I pick Dan Brown, who later admitted he didn't do as much research as he could have.
Yeah, no, he did not.
But I joke. No, that's not what this episode is about. That is one thing I love about The Simpsons, though. And there's a whole lot more. We're going to change topics off of religion now, I think. But there's a whole lot more I want to say about this. But I think that you talked about your childhood earlier after I talked about my childhood. But we've neglected to talk about how you got into The Simpsons. Yeah,
so I think we've discussed this before a couple times on the podcast.
I can't remember.
But you were the one who got me into The Simpsons. Like I think this was around maybe 2008, 2009-ish. I'm trying to remember when The Simpsons movie was released. Was it 06, 07, somewhere in there? I think.
I really forget. It was before I met my wife, that much I know.
Yeah, same here. Same before I met mine as well. It had been out for a little bit, and I think you already had it on DVD at the time. Yeah, and that was my introductions. Like we watched, I think at your house, we watched the Simpsons movie together.
I thought we went to the theater. Was it at my house?
I believe we watched it at your house. I don't think we went to the theater to see
Maybe we rented it.
That may be. Maybe from Family Video.
Yeah.
Might have rented it. I'm pretty sure it was at your house that we watched it, if memory serves me. And I really liked it. I enjoyed the satire. And so after that, that got me interested. And at the time, Family Video, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like similar to Blockbuster Video. It's a chain. I don't know how far spread they were around the country. but they are around this area at least.
Just like Blockbuster, they went out of business.
Yeah, they held on a little bit longer than Blockbuster did. But yeah, the last one around here closed down a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
We'll just put it this way.
It's now a Dollar General.
You know all those Marco pizzas connected to Dollar Generals and stuff? Yeah, that used to be a Family Video.
Yeah, and that's obviously anyone who lives around here. I don't know if that's the case anywhere else. But for a time, at least in this area, Marco's Pizza and Family Video had they had a business partnership where Marco's would be right there in the same building as Family Video, and you could order a pizza, and if you ordered certain pizzas, you get a discount on a movie, or like probably vice versa.
Yeah.
I think the one over near your old house even had a pickup window from inside the Family Video.
They did. I thought that was interesting, and to be honest, it upset me because they had to take out a wall of video games to do it.
But anyway, after seeing the movie, like at the time, you could rent an entire TV season, especially if it was an older TV season, for like $3 for 5 days.
Yeah.
So I would rent an entire. I started renting. I don't remember if I started all the way back at the beginning, but because they didn't have every single season, and sometimes the one would be checked out, so I didn't go. I tried to go in sequence, I think, as much as I could, but over the next couple of years, I rented quite a few seasons, and I would binge them for 5 days. I think I typically finished them because at the time I didn't have much of a life. I didn't have a lot going on. I wasn't working a lot at the time, so I would just like binge like 24 Simpsons episodes in 5 days, and and I just really got into it, really enjoyed it, and I've continued enjoying it over the years. Now I have not, and since I've had my kids, I have not watched it as often, and I haven't kept up with all of the new episodes like concurrentently. Like I haven't watched them as they're coming out typically. But it is something I will go back to, and it's just it's a very comfortable place at this point. I was thinking about that last night as I was watching the Christmas episodes. I'm like, I like watching it. It just makes me like the humor and you have the same characters for so many years, so many episodes. You get to know them, and they become like friends almost. It's like it's a comfortable place, and I just enjoy watching. But anyway, that was my earliest exposure. So yeah, obviously I was aware of it prior to that, but I had never, and I think I had some religious misgivings about seeing it as well. As like, should I see this? And maybe that even fed some of my initial enjoyment of it. There's a little bit of guilty pleasure there, maybe, like, should I be watching this? But it's so funny. There might have been a little bit of that in there. But it wasn't like in your face offensive necessarily, like you said. And they were to some degree equal opportunity satirist.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually wanted to talk about that for a moment. That's the reason I've introduced you to The Simpsons. It's the reason I've introduced Mandy to The Simpsons. I'm certain that it was similar in your household, but in Mandy's household, The Simpsons was taboo. They were not allowed to watch it growing up. I have a Homer Simpson shirt that I try not to wear around her parents out of respect. But whenever The Simpsons is on TV, they'll change it, But you see, the early seasons of The Simpsons, which is a part of my childhood, which I just really love, it had a lot of good moral messages to it. It was about family. It was about forgiveness. I mean, there was comedy and humor too, but you see the early episodes, and sure, maybe it got a little inappropriate here or there, but it was a really good show, and it gets a bad rap among very strict Christian households. I would say Christian, not religious, because I don't know if any other religion feels this way about The Simpsons.
Gen Xer.
Smithers, who are these irreverent nerds? Well, sir, they're the hosts of this podcast. What's a podcast? Well, sir, it's kind of like a radio show. Ah, I see. Like The Shadow or CBS News. Yes, sir. I think we should buy it. I don't think it's for sale, sir. Poppycock, I just bought Twitter. I can buy this podcast. Alright, sir. I'll talk to them and see what they say. Excellent.
You know, concurrently, like I haven't watched them as they're coming out typically. But it is something I will go back to, and it's just it's a very comfortable place at this point. I was thinking about that last night as I was watching the Christmas episodes. I'm like, I like watching it. It just makes me like the humor and you have the same characters for so many years, so many episodes. You get to know them, and they become like friends almost. You know, it's like it's a comfortable place, and I just enjoy watching it. But anyway, that was my earliest exposure. So yeah, obviously I was aware of it prior to that, but I had never, and I think I had some religious misgivings about seeing it as well. As like, should I see this? And maybe that even fed some of my initial enjoyment of it. There's a little bit of guilty pleasure there, maybe, you know, like, should I be watching this? But it's so funny. There might have been a little bit of that in there. But it wasn't like in your face offensive necessarily, like you said. And they were to some degree equal opportunity satirist.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually wanted to talk about that for a moment. That's the reason I've introduced you to The Simpsons. It's the reason I've introduced Mandy to The Simpsons. I'm certain that it was similar in your household, but in Mandy's household, The Simpsons was taboo. They were not allowed to watch it growing up. I have a Homer Simpson shirt that I try not to wear around her parents out of respect. But whenever The Simpsons is on TV, they'll change it, you know. But you see, the early seasons of The Simpsons, which is a part of my childhood, which I just really love, it had a lot of good moral messages to it. It was about family. It was about forgiveness. I mean, there was comedy and humor too, but you know, you see the early episodes, and sure, you know, maybe it got a little inappropriate here or there, but it was a really good show, and it gets a bad rap among very strict Christian households. Yeah, I would say Christian, not religious, because I don't know if any other religion feels this way about The Simpsons.
Gen Xers in particular, I think, American Gen Xers.
Gen Xers?
Yeah, like people born from, like, was it 60 to 80? Kind
of right.
Or even boomers as well, boomers and Gen Xers. But I don't know if my dad's considered a boomer. He was born in the 50s.
My parents were born in the 50s.
So yeah, conservative Christians of that generation, I guess. Honestly, it was kind of the precursor to cancel culture, because they would like boycott certain shows or avoid. But as a parent now, like, even though I have different perspectives, I'm like, I get that. It was like, there's certain things you're like, I don't want my kids exposed to that. Like, if it's something you disagree with or you feel strongly about, you know, you feel it'll be a negative influence on your children.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to, especially when they're younger, deliberately expose them to that. And then when they get older, and this is something my parents did, which I really appreciate, is like, you know, you increase some of that exposure but you provide opportunities, ideally, to talk about it and examine it, which I think is really cool. But when they're young, when they're much more impressionable, they soak things up. You know, I wouldn't let my kids watch The Simpsons. You know, they're too young, I think, and there's some topics in there that are not necessarily ready to talk to them about.
Yeah. Yeah, at their age,
Yeah,
I understand that.
South Park, same thing. But there's also
South Park is an entirely different topic.
There's also certain kids shows that I'm like, I mean, there's days where I'm just like, I'm so tired. They just need to watch something, where I'm not as. But there are certain shows where if I'm there and I see the message it's getting preachy about or promoting, I'm like, that's not good. I don't want my kids being exposed. So being a parent now, I'm like, I get that. It's not as nefarious as sometimes it gets portrayed to be. It's just more of like, hey, no, you think this as a parent, you want to protect your kids from things you believe are harmful to them. Now you might turn out to be wrong about it being harmful, but at the time you're like, it's like, no, I don't think this is good for my kids. I'm trying to do the best I can. But yeah, I don't think we ever had a conversation about it in my house. I don't remember ever asking to watch it.
Oh, okay.
And we just didn't watch it. And I don't remember ever having like a real urge to watch it. There were some other things that I was definitely interested in that I wasn't necessarily allowed to see, but I don't know. The Simpsons was one that like really grabbed my interest as a kid. So I don't remember us ever having a conversation about it.
There was one cartoon show, I should say, that I was not allowed to watch, but I watched anyway. So maybe not allowed to watch is incorrect. Maybe my parents would prefer I didn't watch it. Well, Beavis and Butthead would be one of them that I had on my mind, but the very top of the list was Ren and Stimpy.
Oh yeah, wasn't it like really violent?
I don't think it was. I don't remember it being really violent. My parents complained about how it was disgusting and gross.
The animation is a little bit like it leans that way a bit.
So I find it. My parents were mostly lenient. I find it interesting that they were okay with us watching The Simpsons and Married with Children, but not okay with us watching Ren and Stimpy.
Well, yeah, because there's like whenever you have the Itchy and Scratchy show on The Simpsons, like that's extremely violent. It's like Tom and Jerry on steroids.
Yeah, it's definitely a parody of Tom and Jerry.
Yeah. Which Tom and Jerry is ridiculously violent. So
it's,
in some ways, they're definitely satirizing it, and I'm like pointing by making it so violent. They're actually pointing out, it's like, hey, if they actually did some of the shit that, like Tom and Jerry actually did to one another in the cartoons, like it would look more like this, and like getting chopped up and blood everywhere.
And that's classic Matt Groening right there. We won't stay on this topic long, but have you ever seen read Matt Groening's original comic strip Life in Hell?
No, I have not.
It's interesting. It's interesting. It stars these bunny characters. The Simpsons were originally bunnies
why not?
themselves.
It's called Life in Hell.
Yeah, and
it's about bunnies.
And there was these two twins that were gay, and it was a satire comic strip. Ran out in California in the newspaper. It was definitely a precursor to The Simpsons, although I'd say that was probably more grown up than The Simpsons, more adult oriented.
I mean, The Simpsons definitely, depending on the episode to some extent, but yeah, they definitely have adult themes on a regular basis. Like,
well, they do.
And I know it now.
I think it's more wholesome though.
Yeah,
The Simpsons.
It essentially started and I guess it's still considered, but in a sense, it basically started the adult animation trend on television, right? I don't think there was a show comparable to The Simpsons. One that was geared more towards an older, teenagers and adults. Like a cartoon, like a regular television show. I can't think of one, like prior to The Simpsons. But now, I mean, you've got so many of them now.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's Family Guy was kind of the next big one, but now you got all kinds of stuff like Bob's Burgers, which I've never bothered. American Dad was out for a while. Now you got stuff on Netflix like BoJack Horseman and things like that, and Rick and Morty. All kinds of stuff that is geared more towards adults now.
Yeah.
Some of it's trash, and some of it's
I agree with that.
Honestly, most of it when I've seen it. And maybe some of it is the animation style. doesn't grab me, and I'm like, nah, I'll just stick to The Simpsons.
Yeah, some of it piques my interest, but then I watch it and it's just too much, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, like I watched like the first half of the first episode of Rick and Morty, and I'm like, why do people like this?
Yeah, that Rick and Morty is exactly what I was thinking about. Although there's been some Family Guy episodes and American Dad episodes that were a little much for me too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like there's this Rick and Morty episode where they have like sex with dragons or something. And this Family Guy episode where they're all laying naked. All the men are trapped on a deserted island, and when a cruise ship finally finds them to rescue them, they're all naked.
Implication is things have happened.
Things are happening when they get rescued. It's just a little much for me. Yeah. And Simpsons isn't like that. I mean, Simpsons definitely is an adult cartoon, but it's about a family. It's not about... Anyway, I also love Futurama. We didn't discuss that. We've done an episode on Futurama.
Yeah, and honestly, obviously also produced by Matt Groening.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect marriage of like Simpsons style humor with sci-fi. And another new show. These are my three, what you would call adultish or PG-13 and above kind of like animation. Simpsons, Futurama, and now more recently, The Lower Decks.
I need to catch that.
It's awesome. Is currently my favorite Star Trek show currently.
Wow, that's high praise.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like I've enjoyed it much more than I did Discovery. I just had a hard time getting into Discovery. I've still not finished that series. And I've gotten a little bit into Strange New Worlds, and that I enjoy more than the Discovery thus far. But yeah, Lower Decks is awesome because it has that like Simpsons level humor, but it's all Star Trek. It's very much Star Trek related, and the series that they evoke the most is TNG, which was my Star Trek, and I'm guessing the creators probably grew up with TNG, but it definitely kind of evokes that time period. And occasionally we'll have guest stars like William Riker pops in, different things like that.
Cool.
But yeah,
cool.
But yeah, the humor is great, and it's a little more adult, maybe, but also very humorous, and like they can do things with it being animation that they can't necessarily pull off with live action. But it's Star Trek comedy. Like you might have occasional episodes, in mainstream Star Trek, but never a Star Trek comedy show. And this is the first, and it's great. It's awesome.
Humorously, a long time ago, I was asked to do a comic strip, a Star Trek fan comic strip for like a fan magazine. It was supposed to be a comedy. It was about people working in the maintenance, and one of the gags I was told I might draw is they're making moonshine, and this is just an inside joke thing with me. I'm surprised about how close the premise of Lower Decks it was to that, and I wonder if that person somehow pitched this or something, and that's where that went. I don't know. But that's just a side note. It's just something interesting.
Yeah. So let's get back on topic.
yeah, we're a little off topic.
So you mentioned a couple minutes ago the fact that Simpsons is about a family, and that's something I wanted to hit on. Like for me, like the heart of the show. I mean, it's literally called The Simpsons, so it is about the Simpson family. But there's just that core, like this. One of the things that I was thinking earlier today, like what is it that's attractive about? Because they're messed up. They're very dysfunctional in so many ways. But there's something comforting about that. It's like, oh hey, my family was messed up too.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it's hyperbole at the same time. It's like wow, they're like over the top messed up in a lot of ways. It's like, well, my family wasn't that messed up, but for some people, it's like, well, my family was worse than, But there's something in there that a lot of people can relate to, of like some of the dysfunction and the, some of the from a parental side, some of the feelings that Homer and Marge have towards their kids. Sometimes, like, it's dealt with honestly more honestly than most sitcoms would have done back in the 90s. Like, just the frustrations that you can feel as a parent, and yet they always come back to me, like, the core is that that family loves one another.
Yeah.
They have each other's backs. Even Bart and Lisa, as sister and brother, they get on each other all the time, but at the end of the day, they have each other's backs. And same with Homer and Marge. Like, you'll occasionally have episodes where they have flirtations with infidelity or dalliance, but at the end of the day, they stay faithful to one another, and come back, and they're in that relationship together, the committed relationship, and they have problems, but they stick through it. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah.
So for me, like that is absolutely which again, I mean, it's called The Simpsons, but that makes it, that is the grounding, throughout all the, because obviously it's episodic, 34 years, no one has aged really, except for the occasional episode where they go to the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no one has actually aged really. You'll have new characters will pop in and out of Springfield. But at the end of the day, it's like Family Circus or things like that where they stay the same ages. They're able to continue doing it episodically because they satire pop culture and and there's always something a little bit new and yet familiar at the same time, but something new or a new movie that they can parody. There's just so much fodder. So that formula has really worked. But at the end of the day, to me, it seems like the family relationship is what anchors the show. And if that dynamic hadn't worked, I doubt it would have lasted near as long as it has.
Absolutely. And this is why I was saying earlier that I will defend The Simpsons.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Like, I love that. Like, the family, like, they're messed up, but they have each other's backs at the end of the day. They're there for one another. And yeah, and then one of the things that was like legit abusive that probably needed to have been discontinued a long time ago, I heard they finally did, was Homer choking Bart.
As a kid, I thought that was funny, but as an adult, it's a little much. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, it went a little too far.
Offensive. It's just like, Bart could be put into foster care for that.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, absolutely.
They should do that. Have they done that episode where he gets put into foster care because of the choking?
It wouldn't surprise me if they did it at some point. There's been like 600 or 700 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
At this point, it would not surprise me if at some point they had done one similar to that.
Hey, Matt Groening, you got that one for free.
Now,
do it.
On the one hand, that doing, like, speaking as a parent myself, like, there have been times where I have wanted to do something like that to my kids because it just can be so frustrating and overwhelming parenting other humans, man. Like, they have their own desires, and the older they get, the more they're able to express that. And there's just, you're trying to teach them or guide them in ways that are for their own protection, at least from your perspective as a parent. And they'll fight you on it, and but then there's just days where it's just like so overwhelming, like physically to your body and emotionally, and you've got your own issues from your own past. They get triggered a lot of times, and sometimes you just want to like slap your kid, man. So
I guess that's why Homer does it. He's the
so they
represented that adult that wants to do that.
And I guess in that sense, it does fit in with the show in that it is hyperbole. It's hyperbolic satire. It has grounding in reality, but it does go over the top. So that's like, parents have felt like doing that, but Homer actually does it. But I think if they finally were like, you know what? We probably need to stop making this a running gag on here. This is a little too far. And that was probably a good thing, I think, that they finally stopped that on the show. Because there's other ways you can have him maybe do that something like that without him actually choking Bart,
Yeah.
Bart out. You know.
And one of the Christmas episodes, I'm not sure if you got this far in the watching it. I can't remember which episode it was, but I remember the plot. But in the plot, Homer finds, and the whole family finds out that Bart accidentally burnt down the Christmas tree. And so Lisa starts choking Bart, and Homer says, "No, stop. Your hands are too weak." As bad as that running gag is, it is funny sometimes.
Yeah. And had there never been any humor involved, it probably wouldn't have lasted as long as a gag. But yeah, there are times where, but again, that fits in with the overall tone of the show, that it is a little bit over the top, a little bit hyperbolic, you know.
I wonder if Matt Groening was well, I shouldn't go that far. I wonder if that has something to do with Matt Groening's upbringing, because he said that he's Bart Simpson.
Well, I do think it does seem like he had like a similarly dysfunctional family. Obviously not the same, not exactly the same, but yeah, at the end of the day, as a creator, you often put some of yourself in your work, sometimes very deliberately, sometimes unintentionally, but inevitably, I mean, you're putting some of yourself into your work, right? So, like, whether he always intended it to come out or not, like, that inevitably gets in there. But I think I have heard from somewhere that he might have had, you know, a similar background. Obviously not the same, because it's hyperbole, but yeah, some dysfunction for sure.
So, do you want to get into the Christmas episodes now, or?
Yeah, we probably should. Cool. That's what we were supposed to talk about this whole time.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, there's just so much to talk about.
I know.
With The Simpsons.
Well, shoot. I mean, 34 seasons and one movie. You know.
Oh, there's going to be a second movie soon.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I heard there was.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's been announced.
We'll definitely have to go support that in the theater.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so we'll talk a little bit, at least the 5 that I got through, we'll at least talk a little bit about those, and maybe about how The Simpsons handles holidays in general. So the first one that we watched was, and I'm not sure if this was the actual title back in the day, but this was the very first episode of the series. Now, the title that came up on the screen was The Simpsons Christmas Special.
Yeah.
That's what came up on the screen, but here they're calling it on IMDb, The Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. So I'm not sure which is the official title, but on the screen itself, when it came up, it said Simpsons Christmas or something like that. Because The Simpsons started as like a little short on like a TV show, right? Like,
yeah.
I can't remember the name of the show, but it was a short on someone else's television show that Matt Groening produced. So I guess I don't know if this was officially the pilot or if it was just a Christmas special that they decided to do because the shorts were so popular. I don't know if you know the history on that, but
I actually don't know the history on that. I do know that The Simpsons Christmas Special is the first episode of the first season, though.
Yeah, the very first. So the basic plot, Homer is forced to become a department store Santa when Marge spends the family's Christmas savings on removing Bart's tattoo.
These early episodes that all the kids, the children cast isn't fully developed yet, and the animation, well, it definitely increased in quality as the seasons went on.
Well, yeah, so let's see. This was probably the second or third time I've seen this episode, at least. And, one of the things you see in that I liked was, Homer's concern for his family. Like, he really wanted his family to, not only he didn't want them to worry, although some of that you could attribute to him not wanting them to see him as a failure. there might have been some of that in there too, but he doesn't tell them that he lost his Christmas bonus. After finding out that Marge had to spend the Christmas cash that she had been saving up all year to remove Bart's tattoo. Which, by the way, Bart, he wanted to do a tattoo, but he ended up doing one that was going to say mother, in honor of his mom. It's like, yeah, mom will think this is cool. But she interrupts it, and all it says is moth. Yeah. Moth. But Mom, I thought you'd like it. But anyway, Homer, he's a little bit ashamed to admit to his family that he lost his Christmas bonus. But also you see in that his desire for his family to have an amazing Christmas. So he goes out and works late hours as a mall Santa in order to make enough money, or at least he hopes he'll make enough money to get a Christmas present. And hilarity ensues.
And ensue it does.
Did you have a favorite part of that episode?
Let me think about it. Well, I like this episode in general. I like at the end of the episode, they're all singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but they're messing up the lyrics.
Oh yeah, the kids keep interjecting with other phrases.
Yeah, I liked how this was the first introduction of Barney.
Yeah, who inexplicably has blonde hair, same color as his skin. I have a feeling that was more of a goof.
They could have put more grass on Lisa's skirt when she's the South Sea Santa Claus.
Oh yeah, that was awkward. It was like no underwear and not enough grass. I'm like, okay, but again, that might have been more of a animation goof.
Yeah, probably the style. I'm not saying these are my favorite parts. I'm just saying these are things that stood out to me. I liked how Snowflake 2 was named after the original Snowflake, but it's a black cat.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's one thing I've noticed in the newer episodes is that the presence of the pets have been diminished.
Oh, yeah, they just don't pop up as much in the episodes.
Yeah, especially the cat.
That is true.
But, of course, canonically, the cat might have died. I'm not really sure. Snowball 2 might have bit the dust. I'm not. Maybe if you're a Simpsons head or whatever word describes a Simpsons
Simpsonite.
fan. Simpsonite.
I have no idea.
Maybe you can comment below or send in a voice message or something. Let us know what happened to Snowball 2.
Well, let's do a little bit of trivia here for the episode. So this is according to IMDb. The DVD commentary revealed that the creators got letters of praise for heightening the awareness of the abandonment of racing dogs, even though they didn't know it was a real problem when they created the episode. That's interesting. Yeah, because that's how they get, spoiler warning, by the way, that's how they get their dog at the end, because after was it Social Security and training and suit rental, Homer only makes $13 for his work as mall Santa. Like $13,
which was bigger back then in '89, but still pretty low.
Yeah, it's still pretty low.
And I think that was my favorite. Now that you mention it, I think that was my favorite part of the episode when he looks to Santa's little helper, the dog, and says he's a loser, then says he's a Simpson.
But Bart wants to take him home. Yeah, that's actually a quote they put in. He's like, but he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson. I was like, but yeah, that is cool. They end up at Bart's insistence, like bringing the dog home, and then actually the family ends up loving that as a maybe an unintentional Christmas present.
Yeah.
And Marge's like, this is the best Christmas gift ever, Homer. So I liked that. It was a very happy ending to the episode, obviously for the dog, but also for the Simpsons. Let's see. Some other trivia. In this episode, Barney had blonde hair, as we mentioned, which is the same color as his skin, but that was later dropped because of the belief that only the Simpson family should have such hair. With the exception of Marge, obviously, has very blue hair. I noticed Mo, too. Like, Mo in this episode had black hair and later has gray hair.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I don't know if he just went gray or if they decided to change it. Speaking of color changes, have you ever picked up on this? Like, it seems like the Simpsons house changes color even within the same episode. It'll be different colors several times within the same episode. Like, it'll go from blue to brown to I don't know if that's a running joke or something intentional, or if that's really just that many goofs. I even later seasons saw it pop up among the Christmas episodes we were just watching. I was like, wait a minute, it was blue in the last scene, and now all of a sudden it's brown. And like, so I'm assuming that was intentional, but I don't know what the reasons were for that.
I don't know. I mean, if it's a nighttime scene, that could be a reason why it was blue, but
Could be.
I think traditionally it's supposed to have a pink roof.
Yeah, it was like, but the whole house like changes color. It was weird. Again, maybe it's just like not good coloration. I think it got more consistent in the later seasons, like as the animation improved.
Yeah.
Over time.
You know, what is consistent about The Simpsons? I mean, the town layout changes all the time for convenience. Sometimes the church is next to Moe's bar. Sometimes it's somewhere else.
But they're both always there. Somewhere in Springfield. Wait, is Springfield? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
It is Springfield. Okay. Let's see. So this episode aired first, but was written 8th. This is why Santa's Little Helper doesn't make an appearance in the episodes that follow immediately.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so this was officially the pilot. So the series was already greenlit at this point, and this was actually the 8th one written, but then the first to air. Okay. Let's see. Matt Groening claims that this episode has been incorrectly credited with creating the alternate version of Jingle Bells that has become a well-known children's playground song. I remember hearing that in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Like, there were kids that were singing it, which obviously they got it from The Simpsons. This would have been 19...
Or they got it from Batman the Animated Series, whose first episode was also a Christmas special, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right. Jingle bells, Batman smells. Let's see. Yeah, but I remember that. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. But yeah, because you don't get a chance to hear the whole thing because he gets pulled away.
Yeah.
Like, by his teacher. So yeah, the rest obviously had to have come from somewhere else. But I remember hearing the rest. Let's see. So this special was not originally intended to be The Simpsons pilot. Production problems, particularly with the first produced episode, Some Enchanted Evening, saw the show delayed from its planned October debut until late December, thus dictating that this Christmas-themed episode, the 8th one produced, was the first to be broadcast. Some Enchanted Evening was eventually broadcast as the last episode in the first season.
Huh.
Interesting.
I'm going to have to watch that to see if I can tell it's the pilot. That episode has just been a long time.
Okay, second one. You want to read the...
Marge and Be Not Proud. This is actually my wife's favorite episode.
Oh, yeah?
We watched this last night together, and she told me it was her favorite Simpsons episode so far. I definitely remember this episode profoundly as a kid. Bone Storm and the golf game he eventually gets in the end. You can actually get this fake.
Nerds, we would like to hear from you. Yes, you. You can send us a voice message if you go to our Spotify for Podcasters profile. You can get there by going to irreverentnerds.com. There is a message button. You can click on that. You can leave us a voice message. If you do that, we will include it in next week's episode. You can also follow us on social media. Our Instagram handle is at irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook simply as The Irreverent Nerds. YouTube, The Irreverent Nerds, once again. And that's it. Those are only places where you can find us at the present, beyond, of course, your podcast app. So, if you find us in one of those spots, please feel free to let us know what you think of our episodes, whether you like them, dislike them, you're ambivalent, whatever you want to say, give us your 2 cents. Thank you, nerds. Now back to this week's episode.
Yeah, I liked how this was the first introduction of Barney.
Yeah, who has inexplicably has blonde hair, same color as his skin. I have a feeling that was more of a goof.
They could have put more graphs on Lisa's skirt when she's the South Sea Santa Claus.
Oh yeah, that was awkward. It was like no underwear and not enough grass. I'm like, okay, but again, that might have been more of a animation goof.
Yeah, probably the style. I'm not saying these are my favorite parts. I'm just saying these are things that stood out to me. I liked how Snowflake 2 was named after the original Snowflake, but it's a black cat.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's one thing I've noticed in the newer episodes is that the presence of the pets have been diminished.
Oh, yeah, they just don't pop up as much in the episodes.
Yeah, especially the cat.
That is true.
But, of course, canonically, the cat might have died. I'm not really sure. Snowball 2 might have bit the dust. I'm not. Maybe if you're a Simpsons head or whatever word describes a Simpsons
Simpsonite.
fan. Simpsonite.
I have no idea.
Maybe you can comment below or send in a voice message or something. Let us know what happened to Snowball 2.
Well, let's do a little bit of trivia here for the episode. So this is according to IMDb. The DVD commentary revealed that the creators got letters of praise for heightening the awareness of the abandonment of racing dogs, even though they didn't know it was a real problem when they created the episode. That's interesting. Yeah, because that's how they get, spoiler warning, by the way, that's how they get their dog at the end, because after was it Social Security and training and suit rental, Homer only makes $13 for his work as mall Santa. Like $13,
which was bigger back then in '89, but still pretty low.
Yeah, it's still pretty low.
And I think that was my favorite. Now that you mention it, I think that was my favorite part of the episode when he looks to Santa's little helper, the dog, and says he's a loser, then says he's a Simpson.
But Bart wants to take him home. Yeah, that's actually a quote they put in. He's like, but he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson. I was like, but yeah, that is cool. They end up at Bart's insistence, like bringing the dog home, and then actually the family ends up loving that as a maybe an unintentional Christmas present.
Yeah.
And Marge's like, this is the best Christmas gift ever, Homer. So I liked that. It was a very happy ending to the episode, obviously for the dog, but also for the Simpsons. Let's see. Some other trivia. In this episode, Barney had blonde hair, as we mentioned, which is the same color as his skin, but that was later dropped because of the belief that only the Simpson family should have such hair. With the exception of Marge, obviously, has very blue hair. I noticed Moe, too. Like, Moe in this episode had black hair and later has gray hair.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I don't know if he just went gray or if they decided to change it. Speaking of color changes, have you ever picked up on this? Like, it seems like the Simpsons house changes color even within the same episode. It'll be different colors several times within the same episode. Like, it'll go from blue to brown to I don't know if that's a running joke or something intentional, or if that's really just that many goofs. Even later seasons saw it pop up among the Christmas episodes we were just watching. I was like, wait a minute, it was blue in the last scene, and now all of a sudden it's brown. And like, so I'm assuming that was intentional, but I don't know what the reasons were. for that.
I don't know. I mean, if it's a nighttime scene, that could be a reason why it was blue. But
Could be.
I think traditionally it's supposed to have a pink roof.
Yeah, it was like, but the whole house like changes color. It was weird. Again, maybe it's just like not good coloration. I think it got more consistent in the later seasons, like as the animation improved.
Yeah.
Over time.
You know, what is consistent about The Simpsons? I mean, the town layout changes all the time for convenience. Sometimes the church is next to Moe's Bar. Sometimes it's somewhere else.
But they're both always there. Somewhere in Springfield. Wait, is Springfield? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
It is Springfield. Okay. Let's see. So this episode aired first, but was written 8th. This is why Santa's Little Helper doesn't make an appearance in the episodes that follow immediately.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so this was officially the pilot. So the series was already greenlit at this point, and this was actually the 8th one written, but then the first to air. Okay. Let's see. Matt Groening claims that this episode has been incorrectly credited with creating the alternate version of Jingle Bells that has become a well-known children's playground song. I remember hearing that in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Like there were kids that were singing it, which obviously they got it from The Simpsons. This would have been 19...
Or they got it from Batman the Animated Series, whose first episode was also a Christmas special, if I remember correctly.
That sounds right. Jingle bells, Batman smells. Let's see. Yeah, but I remember that. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. But yeah, because you don't get a chance to hear the whole thing because he gets pulled away.
Yeah.
Like, by his teacher. So yeah, the rest obviously had to have come from somewhere else. But I remember hearing the rest. Let's see. So this special was not originally intended to be The Simpsons pilot. Production problems, particularly with the first produced episode, Some Enchanted Evening, saw the show delayed from its planned October debut until late December, thus dictating that this Christmas-themed episode, the 8th one produced, was the first to be broadcast.
Oh.
Some Enchanted Evening was eventually broadcast as the last episode in the first season.
Huh.
Interesting.
I'm going to have to watch that to see if I can tell it's the pilot. That episode has just been a long time.
Okay, second one. You want to read the...
Marge and Be Not Proud. This is actually my wife's favorite episode.
Oh, yeah?
We watched this last night together, and she told me it was her favorite Simpsons episode so far. I definitely remember this episode profoundly as a kid. Bone Storm and the golf game he eventually gets in the end. You can actually get this a fake cartridge of this golf game like on an Etsy or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oops.
Let's see.
I wonder if Ric Flair, because the guy that does like Bone Storm is like a little bit of a reminder of like Ric Flair who did a cameo in Spider-Man as Bonesaw. Bonesaw. Oh. It's like, that's a nice outfit. Did your wife get it for you?
Bart is caught shoplifting a video game from a store. He is barred from the store. Try and save. But when Marge visits it with Bart in tow, the gung-ho store detective tells her of her son's misdemeanor, and they grow apart. Eventually, Bart gives her a Christmas present, which she fears he has stolen. But when she discovers it is a framed picture of himself paid for in full, she is overjoyed and gives him a video game, though sadly it is a golf instruction video and not the game he desperately wanted.
Yeah, and they, at the very end of the episode, they have like a little cutscene, or credit scene of the golf, him playing the golf game and like trying to hit the ball into the parking lot, and like
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. That brought back memories of like 90s video games. I had one called Microsoft Golf that I played a lot, which was fun. Later on, I got Tiger Woods 1999. Played both of those quite a bit over the years.
I preferred Mario Golf myself.
I think I played that a couple times. Didn't have it, but I remember playing it.
It's me, Mario. This is a driver. I recommend pattern.
So what do you enjoy about this episode?
Oh, I love this episode. I mean, it definitely had a heartfelt ending. The episode makes you feel bad for Bart. Bart actually has a conscience in this episode.
Well, yeah, like he gets talked into shoplifting by the local miscreants, I guess. Yeah. What's the name of the? Oh, darn. The main one who
I forget.
Who he becomes friends with at different points. He's like the kid that is like, ha ha.
Oh, that's Ned.
Ned? Okay.
No. Is it Ned? It's not Ned.
Ned doesn't sound right.
No, there can't be two Neds in the show.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name either.
You were saying?
I mean, there could be two Neds in the show, but it's not likely.
But yeah, I liked this episode as well. But yeah, like when he steals it and then gets caught, but yeah, definitely has the I feel like there are other episodes in later seasons where he has less of a conscience, although it never loses it because it always comes back at some point, even if not in a specific episode, like, you know, and at the end of the day, like, he'll only go so far, you know, when it comes to hurting other people.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the things I like about Bart's character as well. Like I think they do explore a few times though, like what would happen if Bart went too far down the road.
Especially in the Treehouse of Horror episodes.
Oh yeah. You're going to juvie.
Now you got me wondering what that kid's name is.
Yeah, it's definitely not Ralph.
No, it's not
Nelson.
Ralph. Nelson, that's it.
Yeah, here's a good question. They ask, like, how did Bart get caught shoplifting when Nelson and Jimbo Jones both got away with it? The part of the store where the camera caught Bart is right where they both showed Bart stuff they were stealing.
Yeah, it just wasn't part of the plot.
Yeah. All right. Want to read some of the trivia?
Or you could say that they were behind the sign.
Could be.
Mike Scully, the writer of the episode, based it on an experience in his childhood. Scully was 12 years old when he paid a visit to the Bardley's discount department store in West Springfield, Massachusetts. A bunch of guys were shoplifting at the store, and they pressured Scully into shoplifting as well. He ended up getting caught outside and had one of the most traumatic moments of his life. To this day, it still terrifies me, Scully said. He jokingly told Variety, "It's great to be paid for reliving the horrors of your life." Well, you know what they say, write about what you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was the first Christmas episode the producers had done since the first episode of the series, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. And I noticed this, by the way. I noticed there was quite a bit of seasons that had passed before they did another Christmas special. Unless we count the Plowman episode, right. Plow King. Bill Oakley said that nobody in the writing staff wanted to try on Christmas, because it was so famous as being the first episode. Josh Weinstein called Lawrence Turney's appearance the craziest guest star experience we ever had. In addition to yelling at and intimidating employees of the show, Turney made unreasonable requests such as abandoning his distinctive voice to do the part in a southern accent and refusing to perform lines if he did not get the jokes. Despite this, Weinstein and Bill Oakley thought Turney did a good job. Weinstein said, "He certainly delivered, and he's one of my favorite characters we have had on the show." Are they talking about the detective? Who are they talking about? I thought the detective was a...
that must be, yeah.
I thought the detective was a parody of...
Oh, unless maybe Lawrence Tierney was the guy who was in the video game.
Oh, okay.
Bone Storm.
Maybe.
Okay. Don Bradka.
What was the name of that detective who would all?
Yeah, so that was the detective. So yeah, he played the detective.
Video game scene in the case alongside Bone Storm or Save Hitler's Brain, Swim Meet, Canasta Master, Operation Rescue, A Streetcar Named Death, and Sim Reich. By the way, have you noticed how some of the Nintendo video game titles in real life were very simplistic back then?
Yeah.
So the title comes from the poem Death Be Not Proud by John Donne, also known as Holy Sonnet X. No, that's 10. I'm
Right.
sorry. Holy Sonnet 10. I remember Holy Sonnet X.
Sonic X. No.
I was thinking Malcolm X, but yeah. Death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so.
Nice. Yeah, and that the video game's definitely over the top, and they were parodying to some extent. I guess this was probably right around the time that Mortal Kombat had come out. So mid 90s.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat definitely made an appearance in that episode.
Yeah.
Or at least a parody
So
of
then
it.
this was like, a parody of it, obviously. But then this was supposed to be like the next level. 8-armed men fighting 8-armed whatever humanoids.
Did you see the Mortal Kombat movie, the last one they made?
I have not seen that yet. No.
They
heard it
had
was
that
decent.
8-armed guy in it.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Or 6-armed or whatever.
Maybe they took that out of The Simpsons. So.
No, that was a real character in Mortal Kombat.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So the next
Bone
episode.
Storm. Sorry.
Oh, are you going to do this episode or should I?
Oh, I guess I will.
Okay, I thought we were taking turns. But anything's fine.
Yeah. So we'll take turns. All right. So the next one we viewed was The Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. This originally aired on December 21st, 1997. So they did not wait as long this time, just a couple years before they did another. Actually, let's go down to the storyline because that usually, we're off IMDb, by the way. Usually include, well, I guess it doesn't include more this time. When Bart accidentally burns down the family Christmas tree and gifts, he claims that a robber stole everything. As a result, the town gets them a new tree and pitches in to raise funds. So this definitely had some, at least with that part of it where the town pitches in, they were definitely parodying It's a Wonderful Life at that point. Because like everyone in the town comes in and donates some money and ends up being like $15,000.
Yeah.
But then this is more like, what if the whole thing had been a lie? Like what if George and Mary didn't actually lose money and just lied about it? He's like, Mary. It's like, the whole neighborhood is here. Oh, Mary did it, George. Mary did it. She told everyone you needed money. It's like, well, no, I just lost it betting on the ponies. No, sorry, that's not a very good.
Here it is. I buried it in a hole in the backyard.
Jimmy Stewart. But anyway, that was definitely elements of that in the story.
Yeah.
But no, I thought this episode was good as well. Like where Bart, like he's afraid of the consequences, but at the end he also shows a conscience again and admits what he did. But in the meantime, his lie just like spins out of control. Obviously, he couldn't have anticipated that it'd go that far. But what did you have a favorite part of this episode?
I like the part where he dreams that he's going down a river and there's just sprinklers and waterfalls and rain everywhere.
Oh yeah, that was great. And it was in like black and white.
Yeah,
it's just random, like he's dreaming of peeing.
Yeah,
pee. energy?
Because he drank 12 glasses of water before bed. I mean, it was a really great episode. I don't know how that car exploded on the ice, but it did.
You mean under the water?
Under the water.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It was.
No, I love that they like get $15,000 and they go and pay more for a car than they should have. It's like, is this car $15,000?
It is now.
But yeah, then Homer, of course, immediately crashes it.
Yeah.
Did you notice also though that they had two different cars in this episode? Like, well, actually, 3 different cars show up. Including the one they buy. But at the beginning of the episode, they're driving a pink sedan.
Yeah.
And at the end, they're driving a red station wagon. I'm like, are these cars they had throughout the series, or they just randomly switch for some reason?
Well, if you watch the opening intro of The Simpsons, you'll see that Homer gets home in the pink car, which is damaged on the left front side. Mm-hmm. And then Marge runs him over with a red station wagon.
Ah, okay, so they do have 2 cars.
Yes.
You should just don't see the station wagons as often, maybe.
No, you don't, and that's strange.
But no, now I think about it, I do remember some other episodes where it shows up. But yeah, not as often as the pink sedan, the tank.
Of course, that's probably one of those continuation things, because not everything is solid in The Simpsons. Like, they've got this one room in the house that either exists or doesn't exist, depending on who's writing.
So I'm looking at quotes here, and this is a good one. Bart's like, "Aren't we forgetting the true meaning of Christmas? You know, the birth of Santa?"
Yeah.
Which, as a kid, why wouldn't you think that to some extent? Like,
in Japan, they think Christmas is about Santa dying on
who's they?
The Japanese people.
The editorial they. I'm sure not all Japanese think that.
KFC.
Some Japanese think that.
KFC maybe thinks it. In Japan.
KFC in Japan.
I don't know. That's off topic, but I find humorous. I left it on the cross in some of the shop windows.
That's weird. But maybe not as weird as one might think, because he is essentially a deity. He's like a godlike figure.
I don't think they're making fun of Christianity. I think they just accidentally conflated the two.
Americans like both these things.
Yeah.
And we should too. No. Let's see. So, sorry, you were going to say?
No, I'm done.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, let's see. On to trivia for this. So, the story for this episode, as we mentioned, was pitched as It's a Wonderful Life in reverse. As Chief Wiggum leaves the Simpsons house, he is carrying a doll of Binky, a character from the Life in Hell comic strip by series creator Matt Groening. Okay. Lisa strangles Bart for the first time in this episode. I noticed that as well. Like, that was distinctive. And then Homer's like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing that. And pushes her out to the side. But yeah, she gets really mad at him for burning up the Christmas presents. See, the spectators in the stands during Bart's dreams are various animators.
I was wondering who those people were.
Nice. This is one of the few episodes to gain a TVG rating.
Really?
Not sure what that means.
I guess all the other were PG.
Oh, maybe so. Ron Haig has said he got the idea for the episode one day when he was heading to work. He was listening to the radio and heard of an orphanage getting ripped off, and they were getting back more than they gave. When Krusty says 15,000 Missoulians, it's a reference to Ron Haig having lived in Missoula, Montana. When the Simpsons car says, I'll kill you, this is a reference to a wiffle ball bat in the writer's office that said that. When the Simpsons find their couch missing, they run up to it as they do in the couch gags. The view of the Simpsons' entryway is seen from the top of the stairs. This replicates scenes from Hitchcock's Psycho. Nice. We have It's a Wonderful Life and Psycho, because why not?
Why not?
So anyway, that's trivia for Miracle on Evergreen Terrace. So no, I'm enjoying all these episodes. Just it is Christmas time. And browser's not cooperating. Should wrap it up because it is getting ended in this here episode.
Yeah, it's true. I'm getting pretty tired myself, but it's been great. It's been a blast.
Yeah. No, this might not be the Simpsons extravaganza that we might have thought about when finally covering the Simpsons, but at least we finally did it. We finally officially covered the Simpsons for a full episode.
Yeah, and I feel this is just our introduction to covering the Simpsons. If we ever find time to do this again, there's still plenty more to talk about.
Well, yeah, if the movie comes out with
oh yeah,
and again we still haven't officially decided whether to continue this podcast just at a lower frequency or to start a new one. We're still deciding on that, but if it comes out in theaters, I think regardless, either way, we'll probably be able to cover that. So yeah, that could be the movie of the month. Anyway, so final thoughts on The Simpsons.
I'm sad we didn't get to cover She of Little Faith. That was a great episode. So I recommend you guys, if you want to explore the Lisa character and the over commercialization of Christmas, that's a good episode to check out. Yeah,
no, I liked that was pretty cool as well. Like as Lisa often does, she takes a stand, but in this case it was a religious one, which you don't see as often with her. Usually it's more like social justice type issues or, climate, whether it's climate change or recycling. I mean, you name it, it's something along those lines. But this was the first time I think I'd seen her take a religious stand, but it was because of like the over commercialization. I mean, ridiculously over the top.
Ridiculous.
Mr. Burns gets involved. And it's some pretty funny stuff with Mr. Burns in that episode.
Oh, I shouldn't have said the over commercialization of Christmas. I should have said the over commercialization of Christianity.
Oh yes, it was more specifically Christianity, or more broadly Christianity. But yeah, it goes way over the top. So he the church. Homer by accidentally burns the church, or burns down the inside of the church, but Burns steps in and offers to pay for the repair, but only if they allow him to turn the church into a business. So he then puts ad space everywhere all over the church. And I guess we could just go ahead and talk about the episode for a couple of minutes here while we finish up. And then Lisa's who was that character that was getting up to preach? I know he's been in other episodes, where she's just like, "That's it." It's the little red guy in the suit.
Oh, well, that was the Domino's mascot.
Oh.
Yeah.
I knew I'd see him somewhere. Wow.
The Noid. He's always trying to steal the Domino's pizzas.
That's a 90s reference of it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
80s, too, I think.
I knew I recognized him from somewhere, but I just thought maybe he was an old Simpsons character, but no. Domino's. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think they brought Noid back. They retired Noid at some point.
Yeah, I've not seen Noid probably since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I knew he was from somewhere. I was somewhere in the cobwebs of my mind, this character looks familiar. And I guess that's why I'd seen him on a commercial. No, that was pretty funny, but but I think probably the funniest part of the episode is they're having a business meeting there in the church basement or whatever, and the pastor and I guess people on committee, leaders or whatever from the church, deacons or deaconesses or something, are all there with him, and he's talking about church profits have increased by 1,037%. And the pastor's like, "Well, when is the church gonna see some of that money?" And then Burns is like, "When hell freezes over," and then he drops a smoke bomb and just disappears. That was hilarious. It's just poof, and he's gone.
Yeah, this episode made me laugh out loud quite a few times.
Like that was great though. He's like full evil Burns.
Yeah.
But he's more active in this episode. He's like going and initiating stuff himself. Like Smithers isn't anywhere. He has someone else helping him. And he's like out doing his own stuff. But yeah, I thought that was funny.
And there was another Christmas episode, Skinner's something about snow or something, I forget.
Skinner.
How did you like the
they get snowed in. Yeah. And with the principal.
Yeah, and the car gases make Ned and Homer almost die, and Homer has this dream that he's in Islamic paradise. I mean, that's a dangerous topic right there, but I found it kind of hilarious.
I don't know if I caught that part.
Oh, he's in a harem surrounded by women, but all he wants is his ranch hose.
Ranch hose. Oh, yeah. I guess that would be somewhat of like, I forget what they call their version of heaven.
I think it's just paradise.
Yeah.
But I caught that
70
anyway.
versions.
Well, I just found that hilarious. That's all.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they didn't tie it to Islam. Probably best they didn't do that. But I caught the reference.
Yeah, no, there was no direct mention or anything. Yeah, and then just like some of the ads that pop up, they had fun with some of the ads and there's like a changing, like a digital ad thing on the pulpit that changes.
She have a little faith, yeah.
Yeah. But then obviously we find out that two other characters are Buddhists, like as Lisa leaves and then she's searching for a new religion that fits her better. We find out that darn, I cannot think of the characters' names right now.
No. I do. Lenny, and Carl.
Carl and Lenny, yes.
Lenny.
We find out that Carl and Lenny, who are they just really good friends, or is it ever hinted that they're a couple?
No, they're really good friends. Although one episode reveals that Lenny is just a figment of Carl's imagination.
That somehow appears to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, they and they threw in a suicide joke in this.
Oh, Mo?
Like, yeah, poor Mo. It's like,
yeah, that's a recurring thing.
Carl and Lenny are like, Lenny's like, we're gonna go spend Christmas with Mo, so he doesn't have another Christmas incident or something.
Yeah.
And Carl's like, well, I can't do it without this. He holds up a noose. I was like, whoa, that's dark.
Well, in another episode that you probably didn't get to, maybe you did, but it's an episode where Homer sells a baseball card and gets so much money out of it, they go to the rich person's mall, Springfield Heights or something, and he buys a selfish gift there so they can't afford a Christmas tree, expensive gift for himself. In that episode, around the end, Mo tries to jump off of a building ledge. And then there's another episode, another Christmas special, where he tries to hang himself with Christmas lights. So that's definitely a reoccurring theme. That might have been the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is dark though.
Well, yeah, and I mean, The Simpsons goes there sometimes. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, Mo is a bit of a lonely character. He occasionally dates throughout the series. Like, will go on dates occasionally. Tries to hit on Marge a few times as well.
Yeah, he has a crush on Marge. I seem to think that there's an episode where he turns out gay or something though too, or maybe he just dabbles. He sees if he is or not. Smithers is there, and they turn the bar into a gay club.
It's like, yeah, I went through my my bisexual phase.
Maybe you haven't seen that episode. I have.
I don't think I have. Like, did they turn it into a gay bar? Briefly.
They do. Much to Homer's chagrin.
Dope. Oh yes, Mr. Simpson. Welcome to my bar.
That was actually the first episode where Smithers was openly flat out
Openly gay.
homosexual. Yeah. So that was a landmark episode, I think.
Coming out. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Although his attraction to Mr. Burns is always weird. Like, has nothing to do with the fact that he's gay. It's just that he's attracted to a really old man who's evil, but more is like 100 years old, like 100-year-old man, and Smithers is like 40 maybe. That's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
Not daddy issues, grandpa issues.
Yeah, someone's got grandpa issues.
I was like, something ain't right there, Smithers. I mean, it brings humor into it because obviously, again, it's over the top, but it's like that's not appropriate. Anyway, so yeah, Simpsons Christmas. So, Merry Christmas, by the way. It's Christmas season.
Merry Christmas
coming up, or we're in it, I guess. To me, it doesn't officially start until after Thanksgiving. I know some people are like putting decorations up right after Halloween and shit. I'm like, no. You got to wait till after Thanksgiving.
I mean, we actually put, Mandy and I, we actually put our tree up in November this year, but usually like we wait until like the last week of December or something.
Oh, my family, like growing up, like we usually did it the day after Thanksgiving. Like we would put it up, and then my mom would. I think even before that, my mom would start listening to Christmas music a lot of times. Like now, the Christmas music starts in like right after Halloween now, pretty much. Like they start playing it on our local, was it 99.5, the Christmas station here in town. So for like 2 months, they're playing Christmas music. And,
Thanksgiving has one thing going for it, trains, planes, and automobiles. But otherwise, there's no Thanksgiving songs. There's no... I joke, there are other movies, but there's just not a lot for businesses to commercialize, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depends.
Oh, yeah, Black Friday, I guess.
Black Friday, yeah. Football.
Football, yeah. Boom! We're cutting the turkey today. That was my attempt at a Madden reference, or Madden impression. Boom!
Did it work?
No.
Okay.
It's not very good. We got a 6-legged turkey here from hell. No.
Probably from the nuclear power plant.
Yeah. From Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah.
No. Oh, wait, it's not Illinois. It's Springfield, USA. Somewhere in the Middle East. No, somewhere in the Midwest. I meant to say the Midwest.
It might as well be the Middle East. Did you know, I think there's a Springfield, North Carolina.
That wouldn't surprise me, yeah. Springfield, Massachusetts, Springfield, Illinois. There's a Rome, Georgia, Athens, Georgia. I think there's a Paris, Georgia, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there's a...
Old Georgia stealing other countries' cities.
Paris, Italy, and Rome, Texas.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Of course, around here, we got some interesting town names. There's an area, I don't know if it's officially a township or not, but there's an area near here called Hornytown, and there's a road called Dinkins Bottom Road. Like, you've seen that?
I think there's a town called either Lizard Lick or Lizard Leap.
Lick feels more inappropriate.
Yeah, Lizard Lick.
Lizard Lick.
North Carolina.
Lizard Lick, North Carolina. Welcome to Lizard Lick, North Carolina. Anyway, we better wrap this up. So, next week, we got to decide what we're going to talk about next week. We keep saying to be determined, and we haven't determined it yet, but it's going to be something comic book related because it's comic book week. But yeah, we got to figure out what that is.
For this month?
Huh?
Do we have a theme for this month?
No, not a specific theme this month. We're doing Simpsons, which technically this is supposed to be Sci-Fi Week, but we're like, we might only have 3 or 4 episodes left. So it's like we got to cover the Simpsons. So
yeah.
So we technically, I guess maybe that's what we should have done is like Simpsons Sci-Fi episodes, but
it's December.
Too late for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Christmas. Maybe that's the theme then. Christmas. Although the boy and the heron, I don't think is going to have anything to do with Christmas. But yeah, we are going to cover that. But yeah, we haven't decided what to cover for comics yet. So we got to figure that out. So I can't tell you what we're going to do next week because we don't know yet. But it'll be something comic book related or manga related.
Yeah, I mean, I could go check out McKay, see if they have some Simpsons trade paperback comics, or we could...
Oh, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. Isn't there a Simpsons manga too?
We could... I have an idea. I don't know if it's possible. I'll talk to you after the...
After the recording.
After we stop recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. We'll talk about something, obviously. But yeah, it'll be comic book / or manga related. Come next week, and then wrapping up our normal December episodes will be The Boy and the Heron. We'll be reviewing that. And then we got to figure out a plan. I got to figure out when exactly it falls, but we got to figure out a plan for our 100th episode and try to make it special. So, nerds, until next time.
Sayonara.
Live long and prosper. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, the Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, you can support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things. Wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers assemble! I'm Batman.